Welcome to another DDI CADcast. My name is Maurice Cherian, and today we will be covering what's new in SOLIDWORKS 2014 for CircuitWorks. I'll go ahead and get started with the slides. The first thing I'm going to go over is how to associate and disassociate CircuitWorks components with SOLIDWORKS models. It's a very direct way of doing it, and you can actually now delete the model if you do disassociate it from a CircuitWorks component. The second thing I'm going to show is the CircuitWorks setup wizard, which will help you set the file locations for your component libraries, especially if you wanted to have this on a network drive. And then also show you some of the parts you can download that are more detailed than the regular boxy shaped parts that you would get. The component wizard is something you can add SOLIDWORKS components to the library, multiple components if you wanted to, and it'll help you get the orientation right. Next, I'll go over the CircuitWorks Export Wizard, which is a way to bring in boards and components back into CircuitWorks so you can actually send that back over to the ECAD group. And it'll help you to identify the different things on the components that are important so you don't have to know all the syntax of how to import that in. So a real big improvement on some of the interface with these wizards. And then I'll show how flow simulation is now integrated with CircuitWorks, where you can actually import some of the thermal properties in from the ECAD data. So I'll go over to SOLIDWORKS now and show you this functionality. The first thing you want to know is that CircuitWorks is available here up on the drop-down list if you've never used it before. It is a premium add-in. So I'll go ahead and open up a sample file. There are some sample files available. The sample files are available under the Program Files directory. So this board here has 20 plus components on it, and I'll select the first one in the list. If I right click now, you'll see there's Associate and Disassociate. Those are two new functions for 2014. If I associate a file, I can select one from the list here that makes sense. And what's nice about it is when I click on it, now it's going to associate it directly. It associates it directly, and if I ever wanted to, I can disassociate the model. If I disassociate it, it will actually let me also delete the associated part file too. So that's new functionality for 2014. It's a real direct way of linking the component with the SOLIDWORKS part. I'll go back to the slides. Another new function is CircuitWorks Setup Wizard. The Setup Wizard will help you locate where your library is going to be, your component library and your board library. So this is a very nice step-by-step way of setting up your file structure for your libraries. So let me go ahead and show you that. There's two ways to get to the options. One quick way is just to go directly here and pick CircuitWorks options. If you've already have CircuitWorks open, you can click up in the upper left hand corner and get to options this way too. And when I go to options, and now when I go to options, you'll see there's a new button here. It says CircuitWorks Setup Wizard. I'll click Show Wizard here, and it will bring up a dialog box, and it has the library location, component matching, and then we can actually copy files and make a new copy, or I can download components. I'll go ahead and say next here. So the first thing is where do you want to have your location? You can browse and put up on a network drive. You can see there's the database, components, board, outlines. So you can see there's all these different directories here. I'll go ahead and leave it at the default location, but you could map it to a network drive. Also the matching options. How do you want to match? Package name, part number, component height. You can download some files here from 3D Content Central. You can actually go and visit the website. I've already downloaded the file, so I'll skip that step. And now I'll go ahead and finish up this. And so again, that was under the Component setup wizard is on the first page of the general options. I'll bring up a Windows Explorer so you can see these files. So under components here, under program data, SOLIDWORKS, CircuitWorks components, this is where the library is located at. And you can see I have already previously downloaded these files. You can see some of the resistors have a lot of detail in them. And you can see they're not just boxes, they're more detailed components. And they show really nice when you place them on your boards, and will show better when you're making your marketing brochures and making manuals and instructions and drawings. So very nice automated way of getting more detailed components. So I'll go back to the slides. The next thing I'm going to show is a component wizard, which is a way to step by step go through the steps needed to add a SOLIDWORKS component to the CircuitWorks library. I'll go back to CircuitWorks to show you this functionality. The component library is accessible from the CircuitWorks drop down here. I'll click on component library, and you'll notice that the new functionality is file, add components. It brings up this component library wizard. This library component wizard is new for 2014. So you can see it has select the component or components, define orientation. You can define the part number and package name, and then also, do you want to leave the file in the original location, or do you want to move it over to the component library? And I'll go ahead and start by clicking on next. Now in this case, I have one part on my desktop. I could have multiple parts, but just to show you one, I'm just showing you one for time purposes. So here I'll go ahead and select OK. I'll move the file over. And now when I select it, I'll go ahead and hit next. And the orientation is very important. You want to have these placed in the correct fashion on your board. So usually the positive Z is the up direction, and so I'll leave the XY plane as the positive here. So I'll go ahead and click next. And now it's going to ask me either to get the properties from the file name or get the properties from property mapping, in this case from the custom properties. I'll go ahead and click on custom properties so you can see how the interface works. In this case, do I want to leave the files in the original default library folder, or do I want to leave the files where they originally were located? And then also it's going to prompt me if there's any information missing. I'll go ahead and click next here. And when I click on adding files, it's going to know that I am missing some information. So I'll go ahead and put that information in here. Package name and part number. And now it's going to tell me that it's been added. I'll click finish. And now when I go back down to the library here, you'll see that located here. So here's that component. Here's the component name. Here's the part number. And then you can see all the information about it. CircuitWorks will now use this model instead of a standard boxy generic shape model for the assembly when it creates it in SOLIDWORKS. I'll go back to the slides. The next thing I'm going to show you is a CircuitWorks export wizard, which will help you correctly identify features so that it could be used back on the ECAD side of development. Let me go ahead and show you this in CircuitWorks. So I have a file up here that is going to represent a motherboard or circuit board for a cell phone here. And so you can see I have some of the information already filled out correctly. MPTH stands for non-plated through hole, plated through hole. Here's a board outline. But now I know the syntax, but not everybody knows all these different syntaxes for the board and for plated holes and things like that. So I'm going to go ahead and mess up the actual syntax on purpose here. Now in CircuitWorks, it has this export to CircuitWorks. Now in this case, it's going to bring up a wizard. And now I'll push pin the wizard here, so it's over here by where the task pane normally is. So the first question it's going to ask me, is this a board? Is this an electrical component, mechanical component? And I'll go ahead and select board. and I'll click next. And now it's going to ask me one of the most important questions is, what is the top surface? What is the up direction or the top face? And so I'm going to select that. So that's probably one of the most challenging things for people to get right when they try to import these files back and forth. So I pick the face. I'm going to click next down here at the bottom. And now it's asking for the silhouette edges. Since I changed that from board_outline, you can see it doesn't show here. It says use silhouette edges. So if I was to actually change that to the correct syntax, you would see it would pick up here. So I can use the silhouette edge or the board outline. So either one will work. So you can see that you don't have to know that syntax. The next one is correct. NPTH stands for non-plated through holes. And then the next one here is plated through holes. So you can see that this stuff was already correctly placed into the feature tree here and named correctly. But if it's not, it will prompt you on how to set those things correct in this wizard. So the last thing here is I got the place keep out, component keep out area, but there's other ones. There's via keep out area. There's also component keep in area. So you can see there's multiple things you can put in these sketches. I'll go ahead and click next. And you can see it goes down the line here. So I'll go ahead and copy. I can copy this over to the CircuitWorks board folder if I want to. I'll click next to finish this up. And now what's going to happen is now it's going to bring up CircuitWorks. And now you can see, now I have all that information. Here's the outline, how many layers I have. Here's the plated holes. And you can see they all highlight the way they should. And so all this information was brought over. Here's that component keep out area. Now the last thing I can do with this is, if I wanted to, I can click on Save As, and I have multiple formats. I can save it in that ProStep EDMD format. I can save it in any of the IDF formats, which will have an EMN or BRD extension. So I can send this back over to the ECAD group or department for them to use this file to get a little bit of back and forth between the two ECAD and MCAD groups. So I'll go back over to the slides now. So the next thing I want to talk about is SOLIDWORKS flow simulation integration, where now there's some settings inside of CircuitWorks to allow custom properties, in this case thermal properties, material properties, to be transferred directly for some of this ECAD data directly into the flow simulation studies. So some of those studies need properties like the specific heat, thermal conductivity. So you can see all the different properties now that can come over from CircuitWorks data over to a flow simulation study. Now there is some settings I'm going to show you here under properties. There's some import settings, and these are all new settings for 2014 of CircuitWorks. And then down the bottom here, I have the instructions on how to actually import the data into a flow simulation study. Now we do have a webcast that was already created up on our website at ddicad.com/techcenter, and it does have the steps annotated in the beginning of that video or that CADcast, and that's under What's New Flow Simulation. So now I'll go back over to CircuitWorks to show you where these settings are and where these property values are. So I'll go back over to CircuitWorks to the options, and now you'll notice that there is a property setting. So I'm going to check this one off. This is going to be the one for the board models, and then this one is the one for the component models. So now if I go into open up a new CircuitWorks model or go to component library. So if I go to the component library, you'll now see the material density, specific heat, thermal conductivity. You'll see those actually in here. You can see them in this location now. And then also if you go to open up an ECAD file, If you click on properties now, you will now see those fields are available now, and if the information was transferred over, you would see that get filled out. And those are custom properties. Let's go back over to the slides. So one of the things they've also added was the support for ProStep ED-MD format. That's the 3.0 format, and it does have an IDX or IDZ extension. So the Z is a compressed format. So let's go through that. So when I go back over to the options, one of the options that's been added is under ProStep ED-MD. You can see the default file format. You have IDX and IDZ, so you can pick which one you want. You can say use ProStep here. And then the ProStep is a way to be able to interact with the electrical group and the mechanical group, being able to talk back and forth and do some back and forth with the design cycle, the design process here. So you can see email-based communication. So you can turn this on. And so now when you go into open up one of these files here, and now you can see here if I can go ahead and sync with ECAD, and you'll see now it'll let me add and respond back and forth between here. So here's an IDX format. If I change that and toggle that setting, it will use IDZ, so you can have it use an archive or compressed format too. So this is how you can go back and forth between the ECAD and the MCAD groups. So we can sync those up. Go back over to the slides. So one of the last couple things I want to show you is that when you're sorting through your information, when you're looking in CircuitWorks, you can tell to show the sort by ECAD part number or by ECAD part name. So you can sort differently when you're actually opening up these files. So let me show you where that setting is in CircuitWorks. So go back into the options, and again, this is another new option here. So under General, I can say I want to sort unsorted, ascending, descending. I can say I want it to be by component name or part number. So I can tell it what the what's going to be. So I can say part number here and component name here. So I can switch that up. So when I do go to open up a file, I'll be able to see. So the sorting will be different depending on that setting here. One of the last things I want to show is the user interface improvements, including being able to multi-select components, pan, zoom to fit, zoom to area. You can do a lot of these things now with your middle mouse button. So let me go ahead and show you that functionality. So a lot of these things you used to have to do, you used to have to go to the preview area to do most of these manipulations and bottom view and things like that. But now you can use the middle mouse to scroll, zoom in and out. Middle mouse, hold it down, pans, and then a fast double click on the middle mouse does a zoom to fit. And then also if you right click in here, you get those same things, zoom to fit, zoom to area. You can pan, and one of the nice ones here is bottom view. You can just right click and get to bottom view and top view. You used to have to go to the preview window up here to do that, so you don't have to use that anymore. So again, middle mouse does the zoom in and zoom out. And the other one that's really nice is the multiple select. You can now with shift or control actually select multiple components at the same time. And if you want to, you can click on properties and you can look at the properties at with multiple components highlighted at the same time here. So you can highlight them with shift select or control select to pick multiple components, and you can see again the component properties will come up over here. So that's going to finish up our webcast today. Thank you for watching this CADcast. For more CADcast topics, check out our YouTube channel at youtube.com/DDICAD or our tech blog at DDICAD/Tech Center. Thanks again for watching.